there's a big counter argument to city planning that, hey, that costs a lot of money. Appropriating this public space is going to be expensive, but it's cheaper now than later. For cities to execute good livability plans is so much cheaper before it becomes demanded than if you're proactive about it. Let's take, for example, look in the study, in the Cornell study below. You can see that there's a lot of problems with gentrification when it becomes forced by market demands, because then you end up with a lot of other problems with human dignity that it'll address in the study that I don't really want to touch on right now. But by making sure when there's not huge public housing crisis in a city is the time to start executing your livability plans to invest in your city and make it prosperous in the future, rather than waiting until there's a level of prosperity that now demands livability and you have to execute eminent domain and taking clauses to make a city more desirable. That gets me into some of the final strings of questions I want to ask, and that's about the Trails Network in Joplin, because I think that is one of the most forward-thinking and has like an actual dollar ROI of the things that are going on in Joplin right now. Here in Dallas-Fort Worth, all the city governments are spending tens of millions of dollars to complete a trail network that goes from downtown Dallas to downtown Fort Worth. And right now, you're working on something that costs pennies compared to that, but I'm sure you're fighting some hurdles just to get it accomplished. But the rest of the United States is spending big money to do projects like this about trails and connectivity, because like you're saying, it is important for talent attraction. It is important to get people are going to move places. In today's economy, people are going to move places where their quality of life is best. And there's simple things like this that drastically improve quality of life. Could you talk a little bit about the Trails Initiative that's going on in Joplin and how it is extremely competitive to some of the Trails initiatives that are going on in other places in the country?
Sure. So, our target that we're focused on is millennials and Generation Z. Those are basically, they're in their 20s and 30s, and that demographic is flocking to towns that appreciate diversity, inclusion, trails of connectivity, health and wellness. Mm-hmm. Not only for recreational connectivity, trails, but actually true connectivity as far as bike first opportunities or walkable downtowns. And it's really kind of it's bookends. There's another demographic of those in their 50s and 60s, the empty nesters, that are in markets like Bentonville and Springfield and even Tulsa. They're moving back into the urban core. They're choosing to live small and simple, rent or buy apartment, and walk to their downtown where they can eat, work, and play. And likewise, here in Joplin, for instance, we have students from all over the world coming here for medical school and soon dental school, and they're also looking for those kind of opportunities to live in a loft. So all of a sudden, connectivity, complete streets, all these buzzwords are really relevant when we're talking about town attraction. Mm-hmm. Here in Joplin, we're a little behind, actually, our neighboring markets. There is a few miles of gorgeous trail that go through town. The city has, to date, have actually spent Parks and Rec dollars in traditional postage stamp parks. So over the last 15 years, they've added more. There's 33 parks in Joplin, very traditional parks. There's not a lot of linear parks happening. In Bentonville, they switched to a linear model where they basically are building a massive backbone trail, and all their green space faces it. All their Parks and Rec amenities are actually along the trail, and then they connect it to the neighboring cities. So we're in transition phase where our path to that is I've literally been taking busloads of influencers, mm-hmm. People that fund economic development, city leadership, city councilmen, the Parks and Rec director, mm-hmm. and we take them down to Bentonville. Mm-hmm. We get them on bikes, and we bike into Bentonville, and we show them livability. We show them how both residential neighborhoods and commercial developments are actually facing the trails, mm-hmm. where an afternoon with your family now is getting out of the car at trailhead and then biking 3 miles to the ice cream or coffee shop or pizza. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're seeing in other markets, not only in Bentonville and Tulsa, but now Springfield, mm-hmm. which just got a $21 million Tiger grant, a federal grant to build their backbone across their city.
Mhm.
And so we're playing a little bit of catch up here. We're trying to tie the little pieces we have together. And then we're also, instead of having just random bike lanes and just checking that box,
Mhm.
we're trying to be more strategic and have destination. We're trying to connect and unlock neighborhoods that go to jobs.
Mhm.
Back to the Crossroads Industrial Park. It's actually off our grid. It's about 4 miles off of our grid. There's 1,000 jobs in that industrial park. There could be another 1,000 jobs. That's how many job openings there are. But now at full employment, when they're doing hiring sprees and hiring 20 or 30 people, we're now hiring people that are practically transient population. So we're more and more of the new employees don't have a car, and now we're trying to figure out how to get them off the grid. And so almost by default, there's actually a food processing company that's hiring new employees and buying a Walmart bike, and then trying to get them from the grid, from Joplin to the industrial park on the edge of town.
Mhm.
So connectivity comes in all over. It's unlocking that last bit of unemployed.
Mhm.
It's about building the town that people in their 20s and 30s want to live in, walkable streets and bikeable streets.
Mhm.
It's about going from a bike lane to a protected bike lane, which is the new thing. What happens is once you have a protected bike lane, and you feel safe, the ridership explodes.
Mhm.
It goes, literally it's 50 to 1, it's 100 to 1, and people feel comfortable biking. And really the new model for mobility is 1 to 2 miles out, people are going to walk or use alt transportation like scooters. 2 to 10 or is bikeable. Then soon we're talking about shared autonomous cars, thinking 20, 30 years from now. So it's going to be, so it's rethinking how a city's designed.
Mhm.
Urban planning is fascinating, and it's getting our population ready for it.
Mhm.
And the towns that lead in those efforts are the ones that are attracting the brains, that demographic, that under 40 workforce.
So in short, bikeability, livability, all the things that we want Joplin to become, now is 100% the time to start executing those. Let's get our city plan revised, and let's make Joplin the city that we want it to be.